To the local repair shop with thousands of dollars worth of parts and labor, but what really happened under that hood? Our Taking Action reporter Jackie Calloway uncovered questionable work, and tonight she shows you how to protect yourself from a bad mechanic.
You pull into the service bay for a simple oil change, but an hour later the mechanic walks out wiping grease from his hands, shaking his head. Suddenly your $40 maintenance trip has morphed into a $1,200 emergency. They tell you your car is unsafe. They tell you it might break down on the highway. You hand over your credit card out of pure fear. But what if the emergency was entirely manufactured? Today, we are exposing the 13 most devastating mechanic scams draining billions from American drivers. Watch until the #1 spot. It's a trap that legally holds your car hostage. Let's get into it. Number 13. The dirty air filter switch. This is the oldest trick in the automotive playbook, and it relies entirely on visual intimidation. You are sitting in the waiting room drinking stale coffee when the service advisor approaches you carrying a rectangular, oil-soaked, leaf-covered piece of pleated paper. He holds it up with a look of deep concern and tells you that your engine is essentially suffocating. He claims that if you do not replace this cabin or engine air filter immediately for $80, your fuel economy will plummet and your engine could suffer permanent damage. The psychological trick here is that seeing is believing. You see the dirt, so you authorize the charge. But what you do not realize is that the filter the advisor is holding does not belong to your car. Many dishonest quick lube shops keep a show filter in the back. It is a prop. They pull it out of a trash bin, show it to every customer who walks through the door, and then charge them for a brand new filter while leaving the old one untouched inside the engine bay. A 28-year-old teacher named Sarah from Chicago fell for this 3 times in a single year at the same franchise location before a friend pointed out that her specific vehicle model required a completely different shape of filter than the one she was being shown. The defense against this visual deception is incredibly simple. Before you take your car in for service, take a brightly colored marker and draw a large X across the plastic housing of your air filter. When they bring out the dirty filter, ask to see the X. If it is not there, you have just caught them in the act. But while a fake air filter steals a few dollars from your wallet, the next scam on our list targets the very lifeblood of your engine, and it happens completely out of sight. Number 12. The synthetic oil bait and switch. You love your car, so you ask for the premium option. You request the full synthetic oil package because you want your engine to last to 200,000 miles. You pay the premium price of $90 or $100. The invoice clearly states, full synthetic motor oil installed. You drive away feeling responsible and protected. Behind the closed bay doors, a completely different transaction occurred. The technician simply pulled the overhead hose connected to a massive 50-gallon drum of the absolute cheapest, conventional bulk oil they had in the shop and pumped it straight into your crankcase. This is the phantom profit margin that keeps shady repair shops afloat. Conventional oil costs them a fraction of a penny per ounce compared to high-tier synthetic blends, because fresh oil all looks exactly the same, a clear golden honey color on your dipstick. You have absolutely no way of verifying what was actually poured into your engine block. Over time, running conventional oil on a strict synthetic timeline causes massive sludge buildup, increased friction, and premature engine death. A 45-year-old contractor named Marcus from Dallas lost the engine in his work truck because of this exact bait and switch. He paid for synthetic for 4 years, but the cheap bulk oil broke down under the Texas heat, snapping his camshaft and landing him with an $8,000 replacement bill. Your only true defense is to demand that the shop use individual, sealed quart bottles of synthetic oil and ask them to place the empty bottles in your passenger seat floorboard as proof of use. If you think the oil change bay is treacherous, wait until you hear what they do when they remove your wheels. Number 11. The Premature brake pad. Panic brakes are the ultimate safety mechanism, and scammers weaponize your fear of a catastrophic crash to drain your checking account. You bring your vehicle in for a tire rotation, and the mechanic calls you into the bay. He points a flashlight into the dark wheel well and tells you that your brake pads are worn down to 1 millimeter. He says it is metal on metal. He says if you drive on the highway, you will not be able to stop in time. He hands you an estimate for $600 to replace the pads and rotors on all 4 wheels. The deception here is a mathematical lie. Most factory brake pads start at around 10 or 12 millimeters of thickness. Dealerships and predatory shops train their service writers to recommend replacement the moment the pad reaches 4 or even 5 millimeters. In reality, a brake pad at 4 millimeters still has 30 to 40% of its life remaining. For the average driver, that is another 15 to 20,000 miles of perfectly safe driving. They use an eyeball measurement to induce panic. A 60-year-old retiree named Linda was bullied into a complete brake overhaul on her Honda Civic despite having driven less than 10,000 miles since her last replacement. The service advisor told her the brakes were dangerously compromised. When her son, an amateur mechanic, demanded the old parts back, he measured them with a digital caliper. They were at 6 millimeters. They were practically brand new. The shop was forced to refund her the entire amount under threat of a consumer fraud lawsuit. Never accept a visual diagnosis. Force the mechanic to use a brake pad measuring gauge, show you the physical measurement, and compare it to the manufacturer's minimum thickness specification printed in your owner's manual. This fear-based selling strategy is highly effective, but the next scam doesn't rely on fear. It relies on a simple drop of liquid on a white piece of paper. Number 10. The Phantom Fluid Flush. Modern vehicles are engineering marvels designed to run for incredibly long intervals without invasive maintenance. But if you listen to a predatory service advisor, your car is constantly on the verge of fluid contamination. This is the realm of the Phantom Flush. Power steering flushes, brake fluid flushes, coolant flushes, and transmission flushes. The scam is executed with a piece of white paper towel. The mechanic dips a probe into your power steering reservoir, pulls out a drop of fluid, and wipes it onto the bright white paper. It looks dark red, maybe even a little brown or black, then drops a bead of brand new fluid next to it. The new fluid is bright, translucent, and beautiful. He tells you your fluid is burnt and needs a $150 flush immediately to save your steering rack. This is a chemical illusion. Automotive fluids are designed to change color as they absorb heat and do their jobs. A dark fluid does not automatically mean a compromised fluid. In fact, opening up sealed transmission systems to perform high-pressure flushes can actually dislodge dormant metal shavings and destroy a transmission that was working perfectly fine. A 35-year-old software engineer named David authorized a transmission flush on his high-mileage sedan because the fluid looked dirty on the paper towel. 3 days later, his transmission began slipping entirely, resulting in a $3,000 rebuild. The golden rule of fluid maintenance is to completely ignore the dealership's laminated recommended service interval poster hanging on the wall. Open your glove box. Read the actual manufacturer's maintenance schedule. If Honda says your coolant is good for 100,000 miles, do not let a 22-year-old lube technician tell you it needs replacing at 30. While fluid flushes rely on visual tricks, the next scam hijacks your car's own computer to hold your wallet hostage. Number 9. The check engine light hostage situation. That glowing orange engine silhouette on your dashboard is the most anxiety-inducing light in modern existence. When it illuminates, you have no idea if your gas cap is simply loose or if your engine block is about to crack in half. Scammers view that light as a blank check. You bring the car in, and they charge you a $150 diagnostic fee just to plug a computer into your dashboard. An hour later, they tell you that your mass airflow sensor is destroyed, your oxygen sensors are failing, and it will cost $800 to replace them. You pay the bill, the light goes away, and you drive home. 2 days later, the light comes right back on. The deception relies on a fundamental misunderstanding of what a check engine light actually does. The computer in your car does not tell the mechanic which part is broken. It only generates an OBD2 code that indicates which system is experiencing a symptom. If the code says "System too lean," a lazy or dishonest mechanic will simply start firing the parts cannon at your car. They will replace the most expensive sensor they can find, use their scanner to clear the code, and hand you the keys. They didn't fix the vacuum leak that was actually causing the problem. They just hit the reset button and billed you for unnecessary parts. You can completely neutralize this scam by spending $20 on a Bluetooth OBD2 scanner from Amazon. Plug it in, read the code yourself on your smartphone, and Google the code before you ever step foot in a repair shop. When you walk in knowing exactly what the symptom is, the mechanic instantly realizes you are not an easy target. But even if your engine is running perfectly fine, a dishonest mechanic can find a way to invent a problem deep inside the combustion chamber. Number 8. The spark plug upsell. Your engine requires a precise spark to ignite the fuel and air mixture inside the cylinders. Decades ago, spark plugs were made of copper and had to be replaced every 30,000 miles as part of a routine tune-up. Many service advisors still operate on this outdated timeline, and they use it to extract hundreds of dollars from unsuspecting drivers. You bring your modern SUV in for its 30,000-mile checkup, and the advisor aggressively recommends a full spark plug replacement, quoting you $400 for labor and parts. They warn you of misfires, terrible fuel economy, and potential catalytic converter damage if you decline. What they are intentionally hiding from you is the evolution of metallurgy. Almost all modern vehicles leave the factory equipped with platinum or iridium-tipped spark plugs. These advanced components are specifically engineered by the manufacturer to last anywhere from 80,000 to over 100,000 miles. Recommending a replacement at 30,000 miles is not preventative maintenance, it is financial theft. The labor alone to reach the back 3 spark plugs on a modern transverse V6 engine can take hours, making this an incredibly lucrative upsell for a service department trying to hit their monthly revenue quota. If a mechanic tells you it is time for new plugs, ask them to pull just one out and show you the electrode wear. If they refuse, grab your keys and leave immediately. And speaking of unnecessary combustion maintenance, the next scam is nothing more than a highly profitable placebo. Number 7. The fuel injector cleaning mirage. You complain about a slight hesitation when you accelerate, or maybe a tiny dip in fuel economy. The service writer's eyes light up. They have the perfect solution, a professional pressurized fuel injector cleaning service. They quote you $180, they promise it will restore your car's lost horsepower, smooth out your rough idle, and make your engine run like it just rolled off the showroom floor. Here is the mechanical reality behind the Mirage. Unless you have been consistently filling your tank with contaminated, dirt-filled gasoline from unbranded rural gas stations, your fuel injectors are likely perfectly fine. All top-tier gasoline sold in the United States already contains a heavy dose of federal mandated detergents specifically designed to keep your injectors spotless with every single mile you drive. When you pay $180 for this service, the mechanic is not removing your injectors and scrubbing them by hand. In most cases, they are simply taking a $10 bottle of chemical solvent, pouring it directly into your gas tank, and charging you an exorbitant labor fee for twisting off the gas cap. It is a modern-day snake oil treatment. If you genuinely believe your injectors are slightly clogged, drive to your local auto parts store, buy a bottle of Techron or Seafoam for $12, and pour it into the tank yourself. You will achieve the exact same chemical result without funding the service manager's next vacation. If you thought the engine bay was full of deception, wait until you hear how they manipulate the heavy metal stopping your car. Number 6. The warped rotor deception. You step on the brake pedal while coming down a steep off-ramp, and you feel a distinct vibration shaking the steering wheel. You take it to the shop, and the mechanic delivers the bad news. Your brake rotors are severely warped. He says they look like potato chips. He tells you they cannot be machined or resurfaced. They must be completely replaced at a cost of $700. This scam thrives on a widespread automotive myth. Solid cast iron brake rotors practically never warp from normal daily driving. What actually causes that violent shaking in your steering wheel is something called uneven pad friction material transfer. When your brakes get incredibly hot and you sit at a red light with your foot firmly pressed on the pedal, a microscopic layer of the brake pad melts and bonds directly to that specific spot on the iron rotor. Over thousands of miles, these high spots build up, creating a variation in thickness. When your brake pads hit these uneven spots, the steering wheel shakes. A skilled, honest mechanic can simply take those rotors, put them on a brake lathe, and shave off a fraction of a millimeter to restore a perfectly flat surface for a fraction of the cost of new parts. But the scammer knows that replacing the heavy iron slabs with cheap imported aftermarket rotors yields a massive markup in profit. They will also conveniently ignore the fact that the vibration might simply be caused by a tire shop failing to torque your lug nuts properly, which can mimic the exact sensation of a failing rotor. Always ask if the rotors can be turned on a lathe before agreeing to buy brand new metal. While heavy iron parts are expensive, the next scam targets a simple strip of rubber to create absolute panic. Number 5. The Serpentine belt scare. The Serpentine belt is the long, winding rubber snake that powers your alternator, your air conditioning compressor, and your power steering pump. If it snaps while you are driving, your car will immediately lose power steering, the battery will die, and the engine will rapidly overheat. It is a critical component, which makes it the perfect target for a scare tactic. The mechanic pulls you out into the bay. He shines his high-powered flashlight on the black rubber belt routing through the pulleys. He asks you to lean in close. He points to tiny microscopic cracks running across the ribbed side of the belt. He looks you dead in the eye and tells you this belt is a ticking time bomb. He says you are lucky you made it to the shop at all. What the mechanic is deliberately hiding is a massive shift in automotive materials engineering. Older neoprene belts used to crack severely right before they failed, making visual inspection a valid diagnostic tool. However, almost all modern vehicles manufactured in the last 15 years use EPDM rubber belts. EPDM is incredibly durable, but it naturally develops tiny, superficial surface cracks as it ages. These microscopic cracks are completely normal and do not indicate an imminent failure. The only scientific way to test a modern EPDM belt is to use a special depth gauge tool to measure how much rubber has actually worn away from the ribs. If the mechanic is relying purely on a visual inspection of tiny cracks to sell you a $150 belt replacement, they are either wildly outdated in their training or they are actively trying to rob you. You should learn how to confirm if your belt is about to pack it up. This visual trickery with the belt is bold, but the next scam involves actual physical sabotage while your car is raised 6 feet in the air. Number 4. The leaky strut illusion. Your suspension system is what keeps your ride smooth and your tires firmly planted on the pavement. The shock absorbers and struts are filled with hydraulic oil to dampen the impact of potholes and bumps. A leaking strut is a compromised strut, and replacing them is an incredibly labor-intensive job that routinely costs over $1,000. You take your car in for a routine tire rotation. While the vehicle is lifted high in the air, out of your line of sight, a dishonest technician reaches into his pocket. He pulls out a small spray bottle filled with dirty motor oil, WD-40, or penetrating fluid. He reaches into your wheel well and sprays a generous coat of oil directly onto the shiny metal shaft of your shock absorber. 10 minutes later, he calls you into the bay. He points to the dripping, oily mess coating your suspension. He tells you your struts have blown their seals and are hemorrhaging hydraulic fluid. He warns you that your car will become violently unstable at highway speeds, and your stopping distance will be severely compromised. You see the fresh oil. You believe the lie. You authorize the massive repair. This is not just an upsell, it is criminal vandalism. The easiest way to spot this illusion is to look closely at the dirt and road grime surrounding the strut. A genuine hydraulic leak develops slowly over months. The leaking oil will be thick, caked with road dust, and sticky to the touch. It will look like dark sludge. If the oil on the strut looks thin, wet, totally clean, and smells suspiciously like a fresh can of WD-40, you are being scammed. Wipe it off with a rag, demand they lower the car, and drive straight to a reputable shop. If you thought physical sabotage was bold, wait until you see how they manipulate digital diagnostic machines to secure a sale. Number 3. The battery replacement trap. You bring your car in because it cranked a little slowly on a cold morning. The service advisor hooks up a digital battery tester to the terminals under your hood. A few seconds later, the machine prints out a little receipt. The advisor hands it to you. In bold red letters it says, "Fail. Replace battery immediately." They quote you $250 for a new unit. You trust the machine. The machine is digital. It must be objective. But machines only do what their operators tell them to do. Every car battery has a specific rating printed on its label called cold cranking amps, or CCA. This number indicates how much power the battery can deliver in freezing temperatures. A small sedan might require a battery with 400 CCA, while a massive diesel truck might require 800 CCA. Before running the test, the mechanic has to manually input the target CCA rating into the handheld diagnostic tool. The trap is breathtakingly simple. The mechanic looks at your perfectly healthy 500 CCA battery, but he types 800 CCA into the testing machine. The machine attempts to draw 800 amps from a battery that was only ever designed to provide 500. Naturally, the battery falls short of the fake metric, and the machine registers a massive failure. They hand you the printed receipt as proof that your battery is dying, when in reality it is performing exactly as intended. Before you agree to buy a heavy new block of lead and acid, ask to watch them run the test. Verify that the CCA number they input on the keypad exactly matches the sticker on the top of your battery. If they refuse to let you watch, you know exactly what game they are playing. This digital manipulation steals hundreds, but the next scam exploits a nationwide crime wave to steal thousands. Number 2. The catalytic converter coercion. In recent years, the theft of catalytic converters has skyrocketed. Thieves cut them out from under cars in the middle of the night to sell the precious metals, rhodium, palladium, and platinum found inside. This massive media coverage has made every driver hyper-aware of this expensive exhaust component. Dishonest repair shops are now using this heightened awareness as a weapon. You take your car in because it failed a routine state emissions inspection, or perhaps the check engine light illuminated with a generic emissions code. The mechanic does not check for a simple exhaust leak. He does not check the cheap oxygen sensors. He immediately jumps to the most catastrophic conclusion possible. He tells you your catalytic converter is completely clogged or internally shattered. He tells you the engine is choking on its own exhaust gases. He hands you an estimate for $2,500 for an original equipment manufacturer replacement part. The coercion relies on the fact that you cannot physically see the inside of a catalytic converter without completely removing it and cutting it open. You are entirely at their mercy. But what the mechanic is not telling you is that catalytic converters almost never fail on their own. They are designed to last the lifetime of the vehicle. If a converter actually melts or clogs, it is always the symptom of a different upstream engine problem, like a severe misfire dumping raw fuel into the exhaust. Replacing the massive metal converter without fixing the original misfire means the brand new $3,000 part will be destroyed again in a matter of weeks. Never accept a catalytic converter diagnosis without a secondary independent diagnostic test confirming the pressure differential before and after the exhaust unit. All of these scams rely on trickery, manipulation, and lies, but the final threat on our list abandons trickery altogether. It relies on pure, unadulterated extortion. Number 1. The safety hazard confiscation. This is the nightmare scenario. This is the tactic used by the most ruthless predatory repair chains in the industry, and it straddles the very thin line between aggressive salesmanship and illegal hostage-taking. You bring your vehicle in for a routine alignment or a simple brake pad slap. You wait in the lobby. 45 minutes later, the service manager comes out. He isn't smiling. He looks gravely concerned. He tells you that while they had the car on the lift, they discovered catastrophic frame rot, a completely severed subframe bolt, or a steering rack that is about to snap in half. You are shocked. You ask for a second opinion. You ask them to put the wheels back on so you can slowly drive it to the mechanic your father has used for 20 years. The manager crosses his arms. He shakes his head. He looks you in the eye and delivers the ultimate threat. I cannot let you leave. This vehicle is a massive liability. It is a severe public safety hazard. If I let you drive this off my lot and your wheel detaches and hits a minivan full of children, my shop is legally liable. I am required by state law to red tag this vehicle. If you try to take the keys, I will call the police. He then slides a repair estimate across the counter for $4,000. You are trapped. Your car is in pieces in their bay. They are threatening you with legal action and the police. You are terrified, confused, and feeling incredibly vulnerable. So you sign the paperwork. You authorize the massive repair just to get your car back. This is absolute extortion. It is a fabricated legal lie designed to break your will. In the United States, outside of very specific state-mandated commercial vehicle inspection programs, a private mechanic has absolutely zero legal authority to confiscate your personal property. They are not law enforcement. They are not the Department of Transportation. They cannot condemn your vehicle and prevent you from towing it away. They use this aggressive, threatening posture because it works. A terrified mother with her children in the waiting room will hand over her credit card without a second thought if a man in a uniform tells her she's about to cause a fatal accident. If you have ever been pressured into a massive repair bill or caught a mechanic red-handed in a lie, drop your story in the comments below. Your experience could be the exact warning someone else needs to hear before they authorize a phantom repair. If this breakdown helped you see through the grease and the lies, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. The tactics change, the scams evolve, but I will keep exposing them so you can protect your wallet and your peace of mind. Stay vigilant, trust your manual, and never let them keep the keys.